The first thing my father said when I walked through the front door was, "Don't pretend you're here because you suddenly care about us." Before I could even hug my grandmother, my mother crossed her arms and added, "You only came home for the money." I stood there speechless. If they had waited just one more day before accusing me, they would have realized I wasn't there for an inheritance. I was there because my grandmother had whispered 6 terrifying words during our last phone call. "They won't let me leave anymore. My name is Claire, and for 8 years, I barely came back to my hometown. Not because I hated my family. Because every visit ended the same way. Arguments. Criticism. And reminders that I was somehow the selfish daughter. I moved to Chicago after college, built a career as a physical therapist, and slowly created a peaceful life for myself. I called my grandmother, Evelyn, every Sunday without fail. She was the only person who never judged me. She always asked if I was eating enough. If I was sleeping. If I was happy. She never cared how much money I made or how often I visited. She just wanted to hear my voice. Over the last few months, though, something changed. Our phone calls became shorter. She sounded tired. Nervous. Whenever I asked if everything was okay, she would quickly say, "I'm just getting old." But I knew my grandmother. She was hiding something. Then, one Sunday night, our call ended differently. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Claire." "Yes, Grandma?" "If you can." She stopped speaking. "Grandma?" Then she quietly said, "They won't let me leave anymore." The line suddenly went dead. I called back 6 times. No answer. The next morning, I requested emergency leave from work and drove nearly 10 hours straight to my hometown. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, I immediately noticed something strange. Grandma's flower garden was completely dead. That made no sense. She loved those flowers. She watered them every morning. I walked inside carrying my overnight bag. Before I even reached the living room, my father looked at me coldly. "So you finally showed up." "I came to see Grandma." My mother laughed bitterly. "Sure. What does that mean?" She folded her arms. "Word travels fast." "What word?" "That Grandma updated her estate plan." I blinked. "What?" My father shook his head. "You only came because you think there's money involved." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I didn't even know she'd changed anything. Neither of them believed me. My younger brother, Mark, walked into the room. He smirked. Convenient timing. Every accusation felt like another slap. Nobody asked why I came. Nobody asked if I was okay. They had already decided who I was. I took a deep breath. "Where's Grandma?" Silence. Then my mother answered. "She's resting." "I'll go say hello." "No." That single word stopped me. "What do you mean, no?" "She needs her sleep." "I'll be quiet." Dad stepped in front of the hallway. I said no. Something inside me immediately felt wrong. Very wrong. Grandma had always told me I never needed permission to see her. Never. Yet now my own parents were blocking me. That night I barely slept. Around 2 in the morning, I quietly walked toward Grandma's room. The door wasn't locked. But when I opened it, my heart broke. She was awake. Sitting alone. Staring out the window. The second she saw me, tears filled her eyes. "Claire." I rushed over and hugged her. She held my hand so tightly it hurt. "I knew you'd come." I smiled through tears. "Of course I came." Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. "They tell me I'm confused." I frowned. "What?" "They tell everyone I forget things." She looked terrified. But I remember everything. The next morning, I paid closer attention. My parents answered every question for her. Interrupted whenever she spoke. Corrected her constantly. Even when she was obviously right. Then I noticed something else. Her reading glasses were gone. So was her cell phone. When I asked where they were, my mother casually replied, "She doesn't need them anymore." Grandma quietly looked away. That wasn't forgetfulness. That was control. Then came the first twist. While helping Grandma organize an old dresser, I found an envelope hidden inside a sweater. It wasn't money. It wasn't a will. It was a notebook. Inside, Grandma had written daily entries for nearly a year. Every doctor's appointment. Every visitor. Every argument. Every time someone told her she was too confused to make decisions. Every time someone refused to let her answer the phone. Every page painted the same picture. She wasn't losing her memory. She was losing her independence. One sentence hit me especially hard. If anyone ever reads this, please believe me. I had to stop reading because I was crying too hard. Then came twist number 2. I contacted Grandma's longtime physician. With Grandma's permission, I attended her next appointment. After several cognitive tests, the doctor smiled. "Mrs. Evelyn is doing remarkably well." I stared at him. "So she's not suffering from advanced dementia?" He looked confused. "Absolutely not." My stomach dropped. "But my parents keep telling everyone she is." The doctor's expression immediately changed. He quietly asked Grandma if she felt safe at home. She looked down. Then shook her head. Those 3 seconds felt heavier than anything I'd ever experienced. Within days, a social worker became involved. An investigation began. The truth surfaced quickly. My parents hadn't physically harmed Grandma. But they had isolated her. Limited her communication. Handled all of her finances. Told neighbors she was mentally declining. Even convinced relatives she no longer recognized people correctly. None of it was true. They weren't trying to protect her. They were controlling her. When confronted, my father became defensive. We sacrificed everything to care for her. The investigator calmly replied, "Caregiving does not include taking away someone's voice." The room became completely silent. Then came the biggest surprise of all. Grandma asked to speak. Really speak. Without interruption. She looked directly at my parents. "I raised you better than this." Neither of them could meet her eyes. Then she turned toward me. "Claire." I squeezed her hand. "Yes?" "Thank you for believing me before asking about money." Those words broke me. Because she knew. She knew exactly why everyone thought I came home. The following weeks were difficult. Grandma decided to move into a beautiful independent senior community where she could come and go as she pleased. She made the decision herself. Nobody pressured her. Nobody answered for her. She smiled more during that first month than she had in the previous year. As for my parents, they faced consequences they never expected. Relatives who had believed their stories learned the truth. Neighbors realized Grandma hadn't been confused after all. The family reputation my parents cared so much about began falling apart. Not because I exposed them. Because the truth finally spoke for itself. Months later, my mother called me. For the first time in years, her voice sounded small. "I made mistakes. I didn't argue." She continued. "I thought we were helping." Maybe she believed that once. Maybe she didn't. Either way, intentions couldn't erase what Grandma had endured. One afternoon, I sat beside Grandma on the porch of her new apartment. She was watering flowers again. Bright yellow daisies. Her favorite. She smiled at me. "You know what's funny?" "What?" "They kept thinking everyone wanted my money." She laughed softly. "But all I ever wanted was someone to listen." I looked around at the flowers blooming beside us. The peaceful courtyard. The smile on her face. And I realized something. The real treasure had never been an inheritance. It was her freedom. The freedom to make her own choices. To answer her own phone. To decide where she lived. To be treated like a human being instead of a burden. The day I came home, my parents believed I was chasing money. They couldn't have been more wrong. I came home because one frightened phone call told me everything I needed to know. And by choosing to believe my grandmother instead of the story everyone else accepted, I didn't save an inheritance. I saved the one person who had spent her entire life protecting everyone else. Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't giving someone a fortune. Sometimes it's giving them their voice back.